if we're sharing it was ice cream in particular, and you said we should get equal amounts of time with the ice cream.
Right.
Which I think is unfair because I eat much slower than you.
You do.
I think it should be equal quantity of food consumed.
Yeah, because I was like constantly waiting for you to be done with the ice cream so that I could have it again. I think you just have to be faster.
Or you could slow down.
I'm not saying that's wrong. I just don't agree.
Wait, what's the difference?
I think I eat at a perfectly normal pace.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that you eat real slow.
I eat slow. I don't know about real slow. I eat slow.
Extremely slow.
But then I don't get any delicious ice cream.
I think
I've had 3 bites and you've had 2 scoops. And you know what? That's just not fair.
I think the solution here is to just split up the ice cream at the beginning.
That is true, that we can no longer share food.
No.
Well, I'm glad that at this point in our marriage, we've learned that. Should we start this episode now?
Yes.
Why don't you kick it off?
Okay. Hi. Welcome to another episode of I Love This, You Should Too, a podcast with me, Samantha, and him, Indy. And we are excited. It's post-Spooktober, and we are going to be talking about musicals. How are you, Indy?
I'm doing well. I wish I had 60% more ice cream in me, but it got all eaten up, so...
Sorry, I ate
it all. How are you?
I'm good. I ate all the ice cream, so I'm great. I'm trying to feign energy because I have to go coach after this, and I am very sleepy. So I'm trying to be upbeat.
It's a sleepy day.
It is a sleepy day. There's no sunshine. It's just gray. And I just want to go back to bed.
Well, you know what's going to wake you up?
What?
Talking about your favorite musicals.
True.
You were a big musical fan?
Oh, yeah, totally. I love anything that's sing-alongable, and musicals are great because you get a theme and a story to sing along to. And I grew up doing dance, and so I was very interested in musical theater and Broadway shows and stuff like that. What about you?
I think relative to most people, I'm a huge musical fan because I'm someone who can list my top 5 favorite musicals, which is more than a lot of people. But relative to you, no, I don't like them nearly as much as you. Maybe I'm way more picky. I think it's similar to our interests in romantic comedies. You like a much more broad variety of romantic comedies. I think, there are great ones, but most of them are junk. And I feel like the same about musicals.
Right.
A lot of Broadway stuff, especially modern Broadway, I do not care for at all. I don't like the tendency to just sing dialogue.
Right.
I like musicals to have songs in them. I like a number.
Right.
Right, so I like a lot of older musicals, the 50s and 60s. I think that was kind of peak musical, but I think there's some good stuff after that as well, which we'll probably talk about. For this week, though, we didn't have a lot of prep time. So I was just okay, what's a musical off the top of my head I can talk about? When I actually wanted to get into some, because there's some horror musicals out there and things that are a little less known. But then I realized if I'm just going to talk about some big famous 50s musical, those things don't get talked about nearly as much either.
True. And I feel like I know some of them, but not all of them.
Well, what are you going to start us off with? What is your musical thing of the week? And we're each going to have one of those. And then Sam will let us know what our big watch for next week is.
Yeah. So this is one that I actually just got to see with my mom. And it's Six the Musical. It's written by Toby Marlow and Lucy Moss. And it's about the 6 wives of Henry VIII, and kind of a retelling of their stories from their point of view as opposed to a male perspective. And then also, what if they were pop stars?
Okay.
It's really I've seen a bunch of it on social media. They've done a really good job of marketing it kind of in a modern way. So you see clips on social media. Their social media team is like so good at giving like in-depth looks into how the show is put together. The costumes are amazing. And seeing them in person versus seeing them on social media, I was just like shocked. They are so sparkly and like true to like they have touches of Tudor fashion as well as what like a pop star would wear in like almost like a K-pop style group with like really flashy outfits and like cool looking costumes. And I am absolutely obsessed with this show. I know all of the songs. And one of the cool things about it is it's like a tight 90 minutes. And
oh, interesting.
There's no intermission. These women who play the queens are so fit because they sing basically for 90 minutes straight. There's like 2 instances where each woman gets to leave the stage and like I assume drink a liter of water and then come back onto stage. And I just think it's like really a cool production, telling history that people are already like interested in. The 6 wives of Henry VIII, of course, are Catherine of Aragon, Anne Boleyn, Jane Seymour, Anne of Cleves, Katherine Howard, and Catherine Parr.
Which one's your favorite? In the real world, not in the musical.
In the real world, I think Anne Boleyn has a very interesting story.
Mm.
I think she's probably most people's like favorite queen.
At least the most well-known.
Yeah,
too.
Absolutely. To general public. I think in the show, I really like Katherine Howard. She was somewhere between 14 and 16 when she married Henry VIII, who was in his 50s at that point. So it's interesting the way that they retell this story because it is very much a you don't say no to the king situation. And then also she was a child, so she was put in this situation by her uncles who just wanted to get ahead in court life. So you get some really interesting songs, and it's everything from a like a power ballad to a like super fun poppy like big show kind of song. And you also get a couple songs where all of the queens sing their individual stories within the song. So it's pretty fun.
So it has 2 of your favorite things, both British royalty
yes.
and pop music,
yes.
modern pop music. Is the style of it, so you're saying different songs have many different styles. It's not your typical just Broadway style.
Yes. Yeah. So each queen has their own style of song.
Oh, that's fun. I like that.
And so they've, the creators have done a lot of press and like, so that it's like pretty readily available who they styled all the songs off of. So Catherine of Aragon is modeled after like Jennifer Lopez, Jennifer Hudson, Beyonce. Anne Boleyn is more poppy. So she's more like Miley Cyrus, Avril Lavigne.
I like how you're saying, yeah, more poppy than the hard-hitting stuff of Jennifer Lopez.
Yeah, I know. And then like Jane Seymour is more like Adele and Celine Dion. Anne of Cleves has some like Rihanna elements to it. And hers is super, super sassy because I don't know if you know about Anne of Cleves. She was one of the wives who survived Henry VIII, and she actually survived all of the other wives and Henry VIII. And she ended up just becoming super rich and living on her own without any husband to tell her what to do. So she has a very like girl power kind of song that goes with it. And Catherine Howard is more like Britney Spears, Ariana Grande, and Catherine Parr, the final wife, is like Alicia Keys-ish. So very different in all of their songs, and it pulls together to be like a very fun show.
And we didn't quite mention right off the beginning though, but this is a stage production. You actually saw it. This isn't a movie or anything.
Yes, it is a Broadway musical. It premiered in the West End in 2019. It went to Broadway in 2020, and it opened weeks before the pandemic closed everything down. So they came back in 2021. And now they have 2 North American tours, a Canadian tour, a UK tour, as well as they have done residencies in Australia, South Korea, Canada, Budapest, Warsaw, and 2 ships on Norwegian cruise lines.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I've been on a Norwegian cruise.
Oh.
It's too bad there wasn't something like that.
Yeah. So it's like wildly popular. It was written by 2 university students and debuted at the Edinburgh Fringe Festival in 2017. So it's still relatively new. And I think it is such a good show. Especially with like the runtime and just how great the pace is. It's definitely like fun. And I wanted to watch it again, like right after we finished seeing it. So it was pretty great.
Is the soundtrack available on Spotify or something?
Yes. So they have a cast recording from 2018, and then they just did a live cast recording as well. So you get like a little bit more from that one, a little bit more of like the talking sections.
And a little more like what it would actually sound like if you were there.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's been fun from the 2018 recording to the Broadway recording. You can hear how they've changed some of the elements of the show and how it's kind of grown and changed. And then seeing it live, you also get to see kind of how it's grown and changed. So I really love the show. I think everyone should see it if they can. Six the musical. There is a pro shot coming out next year, I believe.
And for all of the non-musical people out there, what's a pro shot, Samantha?
A pro shot is when they like film the show kind of movie style. So you're able to see lots of different camera angles, and you're able to see the whole show from start to finish.
But it is still just a live recording. It's not something where they're making a movie. It's separate from that. It's they do a stage presentation like they normally would, but rather than just an audience, they have all these cameras.
But with lots of cameras and
you get angles and you get close-ups and stuff.
Yes, absolutely. So I am very, very excited about that. But if you have a chance to see Six the Musical, you should definitely go and do it.
Maybe I'll check out that pro shot. At 90 minutes, it's a much easier sell to me. Because unlike you, 2 of my least favorite things are British royalty and
Broadway musicals.
Or contemporary pop. I'm not as big on as you, of course. And I also tend to really dislike, well, this is old, but we're giving it a modern twist.
Yeah.
But when done right, it can be a lot of fun. And from what you're saying, this might be that.
And I think they did. And you get like a nice history of each queen from her perspective. So I think that's a really fun way to look at the history and learn a little bit about the 6 wives. So Indy, what is your musical thing of the week?
Well, I'm just going for a big classic heavy hitter, and my thing of the week is the 1952 film Singin' in the Rain.
Oh,
Have you actually seen Singin' in the Rain?
No, I don't believe so.
Oh, it's fantastic. I think you would really love it. And as I was just rewatching it a little bit, because I'm a man of varied tastes, I was lifting weights and watching Singin' in the Rain.
Classic Indy.
And I was rewatching it, and then I thought, oh no, I should have just done this for my big watch for next week because there's so much to talk about. But a little brief overview for anyone out there who maybe wants to go see it. This is from 52, like I said, and it was directed by Stanley Donen, but Gene Kelly, who is the star, is also kind of a director as well because he does all of his choreography and all of that. And since this movie is 60% song and dance numbers, he's essentially a director as well. So it stars Gene Kelly, Debbie Reynolds, and Donald O'Connor. Donald O'Connor's probably a little lesser known, but he's a fantastic dancer. He plays the piano in this and is kind of the comedic element. Debbie Reynolds, of course, went on to do big things, and Gene Kelly is Gene Kelly. Yeah. He's kind of the song and dance man. Him and Fred Astaire, I think I put at the top there.
Oh, for sure. For dancing, singing men?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And then Gene Hagen as well is very funny in it. So this movie is interesting in a few different ways because first, it is just such a great movie to just showcase song and dance. Mm-hmm. It's not trying to be anything else. This was in the early 50s where film had definitely moved into a lot of the stuff that I love. A lot of that hard-boiled detective stuff. The film noir was still going strong. And film itself was really maturing. And this was kind of a departure, kind of a pull out to back to how things had been in the past in this kind of lavish and just fun and joyful musical. So the movie is about filmmaking as well. So I almost wanted to save this if we were going to do a month of movies about movies, because I think that's a really fun category as well. But this one, it takes place in 1927, but the movie's from 52. So in the movie, talkies are just starting. Oh. It's about silent film stars and how they are trying to adapt to this new format that's coming along. And everyone's like, oh no, we're out of business. Or some people are like, this is a flash in the pan. No one's going to want to listen to people talk in a movie. So you get kind of a little time capsule of what was happening back then too. Oh. And it's fun to see people in the 50s commenting on what was happening in the late 20s because they're not so far removed from it. And these performers probably remember this, right? So you get to see some really interesting stuff there and making fun a little bit about silent movie stars trying to get into this talkie world because one of the main stars in it, she's the most famous actress, but she has a terrible, terrible voice. And then that's found out later once they start doing talkies. And just how difficult it is to use microphones, how you can hear everything, how there's a big room built around a camera because cameras were so loud at the time. So you get a little bit of old Hollywood in that way. And then because this movie is about filmmaking, the Gene Kelly character is proposing a big lavish musical. It's like, that's what we're going to do. Let's really use this new format as much as we can. So because of that, you get to do all sorts of things just for the sake of having a dance number because he's pitching dance numbers and he's saying this will be our big giant musical. Here's how it's going to go. And he can just pitch it and then we see it on screen. So you don't have to have every song and dance number be integral to the plot because they're kind of fantasies, they're ideas. And then we get to see those movies being made a little bit as well. So you get to see the filmmaking side of things and you get to see these fantastic numbers that you don't always get in other musicals because in something like Cabaret, everything is happening on the stage at the cabaret. So you're more limited in that way. This, it can do whatever it wants and it has such a variety. And in part of the movie, they're kind of doing a film through the ages as told through musical numbers. Oh. And it looks kind of like one of those medleys you'd see at the Tonys or something like that. But it's Gene Kelly, so you're getting the best of the best. And it's funny to me because, of course, I've seen movies from many, many decades, and you'd think a lot of parts of filmmaking have progressed always. If you look at an action movie that's very old, it seems slower than things today. And you would argue that, the fighting techniques or the car chases, things like that have gotten better over the years. Right. I don't know that dance has. Oh. I kind of feel like Gene Kelly and Fred Astaire and Ginger Rogers, I think they kind of nailed it. And I don't know if there's anyone doing anything better than what they had done way back then. Okay. And maybe it's just because we don't have that musical film culture as much. What was the last big musical? I guess In the Heights and La La Land. Yeah, but I don't know. They weren't what these movies were. There weren't many stars who were song and dance people, right? We don't have that as much anymore. You can say Hugh Jackman can sing and dance. Yeah, but now to be a Hollywood star, you have to be super jacked and do at least one Marvel movie. You can't just be a song and dance person. Yeah, that's it's a different way now for stars for sure. And I love at this time, I feel like they understood how to edit dance sequences a lot better than we do now, in that you don't edit them much. I want to see the dance. That's why things like the pro shot that you're talking about, it's good for that because if someone is spending all the time on this dance routine, show it to me. Yes. Don't cut around it. When we're watching the Step Up movies. Yeah, you only saw flashes of dancing. they're great dancers. Why can't I see it? So maybe there are better dancers now, but movies don't know how to showcase it now. True. I feel like
everything's so choppy and cut so quickly that you don't get to see the full routine, which that these dancers have spent weeks and months on.
And that's what I love about this, because some of the dances don't look perfect. You're like, oh, the spacing there's a little bit off, but they're doing it all in one take. They're doing an entire dance number. And there's very few cuts in the middle, so they're not doing like multiple takes to do all of that.
Oh.
And then also, it's funny. It's a comedy over anything else, and I think that's kind of forgotten over the years. But watching it now, it's like this is hilarious. And there's a whole song called "Make 'Em Laugh," and it's just about he does a lot of slapsticky stuff too.
Oh, okay.
The Donald O'Connor character, whose name is Cosmo, I think, he's the comedic relief, so he's always doing funny bits and doing pratfalls and stuff like that. And that sounds annoying to me, and most of the time it is, but not in this. They, I guess when you're at the top of that game, and I think he is, it's fantastic.
I also feel like if this is like just post silent film, you had to be very physical because you didn't have the ability to like say your joke. So I feel like those actors are very well versed in physical comedy. And
so many of these people are vaudevillians, right? Yeah. That's where it comes from. And it's just a different system than what we have now. And the closest thing we have is Jackie Chan. Jackie Chan could do all of that. He's a true vaudevillian, even though he's not.
Oh, okay.
We've talked about Jackie Chan a few times.
We have.
Man, great he's a good song and dance man, but he also just fights. We know him for that. But I would love to see just a Jackie Chan musical.
Oh, that would be fun.
But of course, Gene Kelly and Debbie Reynolds, who are fantastic. We really get to see their skills. There's some great tap dance sequences, if you like that sort of thing. You have the titular Singin' in the Rain, which is Gene Kelly, literally singing in the rain. You have Good Morning. That song I think a lot of people know, but don't know where it's from.
I know it.
And I think people don't realize that song is about staying up all night. It's not like hey, we woke up.
Yeah.
We stayed up all night talking about ideas for our new musical.
Right.
And now they're saying good morning. There's some fun sets and lighting stuff in the big Broadway melody sequence, which is that kind of dance through the ages part. And it's had just a huge influence because even you who hasn't seen Singin' in the Rain, I bet you would know probably 4 of the songs. If I
think I could probably sing Singin' in the Rain and Good Morning.
Yeah.
Because I have this like weird ability to just like memorize lyrics without actually meaning to. So I feel like I do actually know both of those songs, and I'm sure if you played the soundtrack for me, I would know more of them just from like being in the world. Yeah,
it had such a huge influence, and I haven't gone back and looked at a lot of 50s musicals recently, but so I can't say that this kind of started the resurgence because, Gene Kelly was already doing Gene Kelly stuff, but this really seemed to be a highlight of it and kind of transcended the comedy genre, the musical genre, and that historical fiction really is what it is at some point. So Singin' in the Rain is my thing of the week. Go check it out. It is relatively short for a big giant musical like this at about an hour 40-ish. And such great numbers. And if you're someone who is kind of not sure about musicals, this might be a great one to start with because it also has so much comedy in it. And then a little bit of a history lesson on early sound cinema as well.
Okay, well, I'm excited to see that someday.
One day. Maybe we'll have to do musicals again next year, and then we can do this in full, because I really think you would enjoy it, and there's so much to talk to, especially for a film nerd like myself.
Absolutely.
All right, we got 2 good things of the week, singing things of the week.
Singing things of the week.
But now, what is the big watch that we're going to be watching for next week?
So I am continuing my tradition of 3-hour epics.
Oh, no.
And we are going to be watching the 1965 American musical drama film produced by Robert Wise, starring Julie Andrews and Christopher Plummer, The Sound of Music.
Awesome. Let's hear it. Let's hear the pitch.
Excellent. Okay, well, this is an adaptation of the 1959 stage musical, which is an adaptation of the 1949 memoir, The Story of the Trapp Family Singers. It is about a young Austrian postulant, or like nun in training, who in 1938 is sent to the villa of a retired naval officer and widower to be governess to his 7 children. So I saw this musical very young, and I absolutely love it. Like, this from start to finish. I think it is such a good story. I think it's got incredible songs. It's got great costuming, and I think it's just one of the best musicals out there. Have you seen this movie?
I have seen it.
Okay.
I haven't seen it in probably 15, 20 years, though.
Okay.
And I think I've only seen it once.
Okay. So
what I often say about The Sound of Music is it's my 3rd favorite musical about Nazis.
Yes. Well, and that's the one of the great things that I didn't realize, I think, when I was younger, because you don't really know about Nazis when you
just
a
watched
child.
it until the intermission and you're like, wow, what a great happy movie.
What a great time. Oh, I love this. It's got love songs.
I feel like there's a bunch of parents out there, because if this was on VHS, it was probably a 2
It was
cassette.
2, yeah.
So they probably just played the first one for their kids all the time, because then it ends off all happy. Or it ends up kind of mysterious, but you don't get to see much bad stuff.
Yeah, and I feel like I just wasn't aware of the like Nazi storyline as a young child. I think I did see it all the way through, but like I just don't think I picked up on that kind of thing until I was older. And then I was like, oh, this whole movie is like a anti-Nazi family. So I caught on to that later, and I think there's some really interesting things about the kind of takeover of the Third Reich and the takeover of Austria.
When did you first see this? As a young child?
As a young child, for sure, yeah.
And then it kind of just remained in the rotation?
Yes, yeah.
Did you have a VHS of it?
Yes. So this has always felt like my like sick day movie.
Oh, okay.
So
you have 3 hours to burn?
Yeah, you're like homesick. You just want to lay on the couch. You want something like comforting and familiar. Turn on Sound the Music, and it's like uplifting and fun. This is definitely a movie that I have seen many, many times over.
Is this the musical you've seen the most?
Probably. I think
Oh.
so. I'm pretty sure this is probably the musical I've seen the most. I think it's like a comfort show for me. So I think definitely something that I reach for when I want something predictable.
When was the last time you watched this movie?
Within the last 5 years.
Okay, so you're pretty confident
Yes.
that you are going to love this movie. You know this one. There's no surprises coming.
No, there's no surprises coming. I know this one. I know that it's great. And I'm looking forward to hearing you rip it apart.
What?
No, I'm kidding.
Classic musical? That's up my alley.
That's it's in your wheelhouse. No, I wouldn't have brought it had I thought that you wouldn't like it, because this is one that I'm very protective of.
Well, we'll see. I'll do my best to find flaws.
Yeah, absolutely.
And anger you.
We'll see. Okay, well, we will see you next week when we discuss the 1965 epic The Sound of Music.
All right, I'm excited. I think
Good.
I will like it. I think this is something that I'm due for a rewatch, so let's check it out. I don't know if it's streaming a lot of places, because unfortunately with all of the streaming services we have, nobody likes to get anything that is more than 15 years old on them.
Yeah, we need like a classics streaming service.
Or just all of the ones that exist. You know what? People might be interested in older movies if you just gave them the option.
Absolutely.
So go check it out. Find it somewhere. You could probably find it at your local public library.
Absolutely.
And get it and watch it and sing it.
And sing it so
then
hard.
We'll talk all about it next week.
Okay, bye everyone.
A female deer,
Ray, a drop of golden sun. Me, a name I call myself. Far, a long, long way to run.